This is for the men who never settle, the ones who miss the fairway all day and still pull out the big stick. The type of guys who will always prefer to be behind the grill than in front of the camera. And the men who never let their friends forget about a high school nickname. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Who wants to settle for a single TV? With more TVs, bigger screens, plus our fabulous scenic views, there's more to watch at Twin Peaks.
At my shop, but I just don't have the room. Every time I go in the back to get wiper blades, I trip over a dusty crate of Honda air filters and bang my head into GTO radiator hoses. eBay Motors never has that problem. They stock all the right parts at the right prices. 122 million of them, with everything from new headlights to vintage gear shifters. I can't imagine being able to stock 122 million parts. I mean, where would I get all those shelves? eBay Motors. Let's ride.
I'm in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Get trust strong for your South Pole. Charmin keeps your undies wetter than the North Pole. Shiny, hiney, a brand new year. Come to Charmin, Happy New Year. May your holidays be Charmin, clean, merry, and bright. May all your undies be Charmin, clean white.
Charmin Ultra Strong just cleans better. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Joint stiff, swollen, painful. Tremfya is approved for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Emerge Tremfyant. Tremfya can help reduce joint symptoms at 24 weeks. Some patients reported less fatigue as assessed by survey 1 week prior. Individual results may vary.
Tremfya is taken by injection at weeks 0 and 4, and then every 8 weeks. Following the 2 starter doses, that's 6 doses a year. By prescription only, serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms of infection, including fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough. Tell your doctor if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Tremfya. Emerge Tremfyant. To learn more, call 1-877-578-3527 or visit tremfya.com.
And with small business owners during their busiest time of year. Switch now and we'll pay off your phone up to $1,000. You keep your phone and your number. Plus, get $200 in Facebook ads on us so you can reach more customers and finish this year strong. Visit your T-Mobile store and make the switch today. Up to $1,000 via virtual prepaid card for eligible device payment. Allow 15 days. Qualifying credit service ported and timely redemption required. No cash access on card and expires in 6 months. Details at T-Mobile.com. Ads via virtual prepaid card when you port in a line with 2 plus more lines or after existing lines.
Wine. Styles start at just $9. Grab gifts for everyone on your list with up to 60% off store-wide. Hurry to Old Navy or OldNavy.com today. Valid 12/8 through 12/17. Select styles only.
We love helping you save time and money. Get the week's best deals for the same prices in-store as you'll find online at Rayleigh's.com. Like this week's Rayleigh's fresh whole bone-in pork shoulder roast sold in the bag on sale for only 97 cents a pound. And get locally grown red seedless grapes for only $1.97 a pound. Stock up and save big on all your holiday essentials with very merry values store-wide. Flavorful festivities, fantastic savings. Only at Rayleigh's in Bel Air.
You work hard. Get the fast, reliable internet you deserve for just $19.99 a month for 12 months with a 1-year contract.
And don't miss out. Ask how you can get 12 times the speed for the same price when you add Xfinity Mobile. Imagine. Faster downloads, more streaming, the possibilities are endless.
That's more speed, and you'll save hundreds over AT&T.
So, what are you waiting for? Sign up now because you deserve awesome internet.
Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today.
Let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Charlton of Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. At Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to everybody who loves sports, and that includes me. It's all fair and level award. Today is a beautiful December the 9th, 2021. Ground of the Portes. Bonjour. As I say, welcome to the show. Love saying that. I gotta work on that introduction. It's all fair and level award. Big C Sports Podcast. I had a dream. Big C Sports Podcast coming to ESPN for 2022. Give that some praise. It's all fair and level work. Even though they may put me on at midnight, it's better to be on at midnight. That's also morning, depending on how you look at your clock, if that makes sense to you. You can follow Big C Sports all around the world on 19 podcast applications from Google, Alexa, Spotify, Speaker Podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeart-Radio Podcast. You can follow us on Castbox Podcast, Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict, and also Pod Chaser. Please give me some praise for not passing out to get to that spot. Don't want to pass out through the introduction. You can also follow Big C Sports on Geo Savant Podcast, Podtail, YouTube, Hub Hopper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line, Repod Podcast, Luminary Podcast, also Listen Notes. Rumor has it coming to Facebook Podcasting, which I guess is going to be called Meta Podcasting, and that's all fair and level word. You can also follow Big C Sports on TV. On television, you can follow Big C Sports, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Give that some praise. I said, give that some praise, producer. You can follow us on TV, already streaming, hopefully coming to ESPN in 2022 with Big C Sports Podcast, all fair and level war. I love paying homage to my family legacy on my mother's side, my great-grandmother, Mamo, and my great-grandfather, Pop, former Negro League baseball player, well known for saying, boy, get out of that barn. It's all fair and level war, making the best moonshine in the history of the universe. All fair and level war, boy, get out of that barn. And my grandmother called her Mud Dish. She was a wonderful person to see her. And then my grandfather, Hezekiah, also doing a great thing, keeping the family together. My beautiful mother started a Head Start program in Northern California and helped win the Little League Championship of the universe. Give that some praise. Head Start program and Little League Championship, that deserves a home run. That's why I learned the pitch. Swung on, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friends. Always saying rise and shine, really appreciate that. On my father's side, my grandfather, Albert Curry, started 2 churches in Northern California and also built the 3rd one in Central California on 2 service stations in Oakland, California. My beautiful grandmother making sure that everybody did whatever is possible to keep the church going, as well as a service station and keeping the family together. And my father, retired Air Force fighter pilot and chief mechanic, did everything to keep the country safe. And my brother Todd, with his bombastic voice, I want to thank my daughter Daisy helping me set up events when coaches would come to the West Coast. And my son Malcolm, who's all over the NBA, knows it inside and out. And then Big C with his wealth of knowledge in the past. Give them all some praise. I said, give them all praise. Really do appreciate that. With Big C Sports Podcast. Got a lot of good stuff to cover tonight on the Big C Sports Podcast. And that's why I love saying, let's get ready to rumble. Love saying, let's get ready to rumble. Big C Sports Podcast. SB nominated Big C Sports Podcast. No scripts, no 3-minute teleprompters, no producer in my ear. All I do is produce the show with my higher self. I produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all of the sound effects that's provided by the agency, like, take the picture. You had to get my phone to take better pictures. It's all fair. My phone picture got stuck. I guess this got stuck. I guess it didn't like what it was taking a picture of. I do all of the commercials outside of what the agency provides. I provide the stats. I provide the storytelling. I also do the play-by-play. Steph Curry for 3! He's trying to break his own record. Man, that guy's so good, he's breaking his own records. And then I upload the show to the platform that goes out to 19 podcast applications and 4 TV applications. I never missed a show since starting Big C Sports back in September 2015. The only sports show, I believe, in the universe that's I like to quote the Bible. And there's verses that I love, of course, but Genesis 13:15, God said, for all the land that thou seest will I give you, and thy seed forever. And the book of James chapter 4, verse 2 said, we have not because we ask not. So if you want something, make sure you ask. Just ask. If you ask, you have a chance. If you don't ask, you don't have a chance. I said, just ask. If you have a chance, you just ask. Why am I yelling? I can't help it. It's part of my DNA. I love yelling and talking about our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. If you know a veteran's gone through issues, I hope that we can have calmer heads with the Russian buildup and then the United States, of course, being called to action. President Biden, I know a lot of people don't pay attention to that, but we got to keep our heads out of the sand, not just covering sports. But if you know veterans going through issues, or even civilians, pick up the phone. You can call 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can give our veterans some praise. Give them praise. Everybody needs somebody to lean on. It's all fair and love and war. I want to say I really appreciate being on Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe, just like in Genesis 1:3. God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say, play Big C Sports Podcast. You're speaking to your smart device, and it opens up all over the world. Really do appreciate that, and I love that. Also, for the real estate, I love ValleyHomesWeekly.com. If you're looking about real estate in your neck of the woods, go to the nationalrealestatepost.com to find out what's going on with real estate trends. For mortgage information, you can go to the mortgagedailynews.com. You'll find out more about what's going on with mortgage rates in the country in your neck of the woods. Also, if you have more information that you want, just call 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. And give us some praise when you reach out to them. Just tell them Big C sent you. Really do appreciate that. There's a lot of good things going on in the sports world. If you're betting, please do not bet more money than you can afford. Don't bet more money than you can afford. They always tell you the good things where they call and say they got the winning number and they know their point spread, and then they say that they don't win all of their games, and they also don't give you your money back when their bets don't pan out. So it's like, if you got the winning ticket, why you want to share with everybody? If you have the winning lottery ticket, like I have for tomorrow's Mega Millions, why would you call up and give everybody else the numbers? So if a guy in Las Vegas knows the winning point spread and who's going to win the game and by how many points, and if he's so smart, why would he want to share the plot with everybody else? It doesn't make any sense. So be careful when you go out and bet money more than you have. I also want to say thank you to Budweiser Zero. And Budweiser Zero, it has 0% alcohol, but 100% honest game, sports fans. When you're watching the big game, you want to eat the Big C burger. It's a tasty burger, and it comes with what's all this exotic meats. I don't know what all the exotic meats are. All does it taste good. Rumor has it tastes better in your mouth than it does in your hands. It's all fair and level, where a lot of things taste better in your mouth than it does in your hand. And have some NFL football to talk about. Also some NBA basketball. Well, Steph Curry, I got to get my producer right. Steph Curry for 3. Will he break his own record before the weekend's over? Probably so. Trying to climb that 3-point record. He's always trying to break something. And then we have some NFL football tonight. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Minnesota Vikings. Also have some college stats to talk about for the FCS college football playoffs to see what's happening with those teams. And then Coach McCarthy for the Dallas Cowboys said, I guarantee that we'll beat the Washington football team. So he guarantees it. How's that make you feel if you're down in Dallas? All fair in level world. But I want to start tonight's show off with some NBA basketball. I know that everybody has their own thoughts about NBA basketball. The schedule's not very deep tonight. Almost like going swimming in a baby swimming pool, is not too deep, oftentimes about a foot deep or maybe 2. A small schedule for Thursday, December the 9th. We have the Utah Jazz at the Philadelphia 76ers. That game was already live on NBA TV. And the great Joel Embiid's back in action, so he's helping Philly get their groove back. Utah's also a good team, but I don't know if they'll have a chance to win going to Philly with those fans getting all over them, good old boys. And then the Los Angeles Lakers, they had to get their groove back just a couple days ago, getting a big win over. I mean, tell you, when you think about the Lakers, everybody should think they're supposed to win every game. They're not going to win every game. It's just about playoff time. When it's down to the playoff time, that's when they want to turn their groove on. But could you imagine last year, they were knocked out by the Phoenix Suns the year after they won the NBA title. This year, they'll probably get knocked out by the Golden State Warriors or maybe even Phoenix. They just got to get healthy with LeBron James and then his friends, as long as they can stay well and healthy as far as all fair and level. Where Denver Nuggets down at San Antonio, the Joker going down to face Coach Pop. That game's a 5 p.m. tip-off. Actually, a 5:30 p.m. tip-off for Denver at San Antonio. The Lakers at Memphis tipped off at 5 o'clock p.m., so already underway. Friday has a much bigger schedule for the NBA basketball universe. For all of you following the NBA basketball universe, give it some praise. Give it praise that we've gotten through a lot of issues with players being out for COVID and still finding ways to make their basketball teams win. All's fair and level war, so good luck with that. And then I want to talk about another great player. I think when you think about player, Steph Curry, really love his last name. I want to say Charlton Curry for history. It's 10 3-pointers away from breaking Ray Allen's all-time record with the Warriors when they hit the road. When you think about that, an update for Steph Curry, you can call it Charlton Curry, closing on the history, 9 3-pointers away from tying Ray Allen's. He was also Jesus Shuttleworth in the movie He Got Game. I don't think Steph Curry's been in any movies of that nature that produced by the great Spike Lee, and Denzel Washington was a major actor back in the day. They were going to big state, just like Big C Sports. They were trying to get him into a big state of all places. Isn't that something? So I'm looking at a player like Charlton Curry, or would that be Steph Curry, all-time record of 3-pointers made. He'll break it with 10, and breaking it after he went 6 for 17 from deep at Golden State last night with a 104-94 win over the Portland Trail Blazers. And every time Steph Curry, what I love about the crowd, the Warriors, Steph Curry for 3! The crowd stands on their feet, gives a standing ovation. I like to say, okay, I do it my own way. Charlton Curry for 3! Get the same last name. His jump shot's a little bit better than mine, just by a little bit. And when you think about it, the great Ray Allen, also known as Jesus Shuttleworth, in the movie He Got Game, produced by the great Spike Lee, at 2,973 3-point baskets made in 1,300 game career. Think about that. Through 786 games, the great Steph Curry, a.k.a. Charlton Curry, has made 2,964. Now that deserves some praise. Give that some praise. Charlton Curry, a.k.a. Steph Curry, or Steph Curry, a.k.a. Charlton Curry, 2,964 threes through just 786 games. Isn't that something? It took Ray Allen 1,300 games in his entire career. Steph Curry, through nearly half the games, just over half the games, has already gotten just about 10 3-point baskets away from taking over the reign. Isn't that something? That to me is amazing. Taking more threes this season than anyone ever has, 18.2 attempts per 100 possessions. And that's pretty incredible when you think about it. A bit weird at times for some people heading into the Blazers game. There were people that were debating whether he could break it or not. Well, he's not going to hit 16 threes in one game. But his chances of breaking the two-time all-star, think about this, the two all-time records at the same time he would have needed to break Klay Thompson's single-game record of 14 threes in order to tie Allen's career mark on Wednesday. Curry himself said crazier things have happened. And think about his partner, the great Klay Thompson. 14 threes in one game. That's why they're called the Splash Brothers. Not just because they're playing by the city, by the dock of the bay, but because they can both knock it down from downtown, and they've been doing that. But when you think about it, it's all about how well they play. Coach Kerr was saying that he did not talk to them about the game. And you know how many threes they shoot in one game, but obviously it's never been done before. I recall in a playoff game, it was a great Michael Jordan, and he made 6 3-point baskets. I think it was against Portland, and the crowd was going nuts. They was going, Michael Jordan for 3! And then Michael shook his head like, hey, I don't know what's happening. Well, Steph Curry does that almost every night. Think about that. Klay Thompson hit 14. And Jordan did 6 of them, and people were like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy can shoot that great. But it's just routine for Curry. He made 6 on Wednesday night, nothing new for him. And if you think about how well he plays, he's not as braggadocious as, I know he does a shimmy, he just kind of shakes his body and when he hits a basket just to get the crowd. That's kind of his stick thing. But Curry, a 3-point record holder himself, had a career mark of 45.4%, which is best in NBA history. Indeed, never made more than 5 threes in a single game. He never even attempted more than 8. And Curry's making an average of 5.5 threes every game this season, which means that Allen's record's most likely going to fall in the next 2 games. No more than 3 games for Golden State. So it'll be done well before getting into by the end of the weekend. I'm going to say it's going to be done by the end of the weekend. Isn't that something? On Sunday when people are watching NFL football, he'll most likely break the record right around that time or even the day before Monday Night Football. Either way, but he's going to break the record eventually. Golden State forward Otto Porter Jr. said it's just a matter of time. And the job for the Warriors is to get them open looks. Whether the record's broken in the next 3 or 4 days or not, the next 2 or 3 games. The Warriors just want to win. He's a remarkable shooter. He plays his game like a big man because he runs around the big guys all the time, going down inside the paint, not afraid to get the basket and the foul, even though he's probably the best shooter really in the history of the game from deep. You think he's going to beat Ray Allen's record in the next couple of days here, the next couple of games for sure. But he also goes down inside the tall timber, and he'll shoot off the basket as well. He'll go off the glass as well. But this is about can he hit the three and get the record done. And it feels like if you give him just a little bit of space, Curry will find the bucket. He's just amazing the way he does it. And when you think about it, he's not a guy that's about ego and pounding his chest, even though he does the shimmy. I love the way his mannerisms are toward the game. Every athlete has their own machismo, but he does make it fun to go out and watch the game. And the great thing I love about Steph Curry, a.k.a. Charlton Curry, I'm a little bit older than him, so I can say that, is he never stops running around on the court. He never does. He's always in motion, like the Energizer Bunny. Always in motion. But the Energizer Bunny never shot threes like Steph Curry. But you'll see there's so many players that are pointing to how good he is. He's even changed the way a lot of guys try to be him. I mean, everybody is trying to shoot threes in what they would call a 4-point basket nowadays, just inside of the half-court mark. And he does it, and when he does it, it's not a bad shot. Most guys, if they shoot a three, you go, no, go down in the paint. But Steph Curry, when he shoots from 5 feet beyond the three-point arc, it's not a bad shot for Curry. Curry's going to continue to chase away at the Chase Center. Golden State will visit Philadelphia on Saturday, where Curry could, realistically, I don't think he's going to hit that many shots to break it when he gets to Philadelphia, but he could. I mean, Philly probably going to try to play hard on him and keep him from doing it. May come in the game after that, and that may be against the Indiana Pacers. But when you think about it, Steph Curry's his brother, plays for Philadelphia. Wouldn't that be something if he did it against his brother? They probably did that a lot in the backyard. I remember playing basketball against my brothers in the backyard, and every shot was a slam dunk back in the day. And we even had music in the background turned up to show the slam dunk. It was always, as I was a little boy, I heard Curry for three. It was always me or my brother trying to make the basket, and then my kids in the backyard doing it. Always with my son and my daughter, Curry for three in the backyard. I remember those days. Really appreciate watching what Curry does. If he doesn't get it in Philly, again, he needs 10 threes to do it. He's not going to hit 10 threes in Philadelphia. He might get 6 or 7, but probably not going to get 10 of them. And then he could do it against the Indiana Pacers. Remember the great Reggie Miller out of UCLA, who was a three-point aficionado as well? That good old boy is amazing. It's just like Bryce Young's going to win the Davey O'Brien Award. Quarterback from Alabama, another kid from California. I'm telling you, if Curry doesn't get it done in Philadelphia, he's going to do it against Indiana, the Pacers. Wouldn't it be something if Reggie Miller calls that game? That would be great to do it in front of Reggie Miller at the place that Reggie Miller made famous for threes. And if he doesn't do it then, it could come the next night at Madison Square Garden, where he lit up the New York Knicks for 54 points back in 2013. New York Knicks for three! Can you imagine doing it in front of the great Spike Lee? I got a clue. I'm telling you, Spike Lee produced Ray Allen, Denzel Washington. He got game. They were going to big state. What if he holds off a little bit and does it at what they call the Mecca of basketball in New York, Madison Square Garden? Steph Curry for three! And the great Spike Lee is there, and he cast Steph Curry, and he got game part 2. You heard the script already. He got game part 2 between Charlton Curry and Denzel Washington. That's Steph Curry and Denzel Washington. Oh, okay. Either way, for three. But I think that would be great if they held it off. You know, things could be manufactured. Why not just do it in New York City in front of Spike Lee? And maybe even Denzel would be at the game. I think that would be great for television, but that might be too long for Steph Curry to figure that out. But he dropped 54 points back in 2013. It was February 27th against the New York Knickerbockers, and that changed the sport. Curry's made 11 threes in that legendary game. Can you imagine that? 11 threes in that legendary game at Madison Square Garden. Only the second time he'd ever made more than 7. And that tells you how great he is. The guy, think about it. I opened up talking about Michael Jordan. It was Michael Jordan for three in a playoff game against the Portland Trail Blazers. And I remember him looking to the camera going, I don't know what's going on, guys. But now Steph Curry had hit 11, okay? And that's the most he's ever done in one game. He's gotten 6 and 7 at times. But I think it would be great if it could be the theater that even happens in Indiana, known for basketball, or at Madison Square Garden would be the best place that it could happen, because New York is the media mecca of the United States, maybe of the world. I would love to see him do it in New York City, but that's too many games. He's not going to, well, not really. If he needs 10 to break it. So what if he gets 5 against Philadelphia, against his brother, and then he gets 4 in Indiana to tie it with Reggie Miller, and then going to New York City? Could you imagine the theater in Madison Square Garden going into the Garden tied with the all-time three-point record, and then in front of Spike Lee and the He Got Game crew, and to drop his first 3 at Madison Square Garden against the New York Knicks, Steph Curry 4-3, and set the NBA three-point record. I think that's how it's going to go down. You've heard it first on Big C Sports. He'll hold off until they get it done in New York City. That's what I feel, all fair and love and war. And I don't think they would boo him. I think they would chant MVP, MVP. But it's all fair and love and war. It's likely he's going to go for 10 threes against the Sixers. I don't think it's going to happen. But his career high is 13 set November 7, 2016 against the New Orleans Pelicans. And he hit a double digits 22 times in his career. It hasn't happened yet this season, but he's had 4 games with 9 threes made. Much crazier things have happened. But I like the narrative that I just came up with. And if Steph Curry could just save it until he gets to New York City. New York City, hit 5 against Philadelphia, which is big. And then hit 4 against Indiana with Reggie Miller in the house. And then get to New York City. And could you imagine setting the record for 3-point baskets made at Madison Square Garden? And that would live in the history books that he did it on the East Coast and the mecca of them all, and Madison Square Garden in front of the New York Knicks crowd, and gets a standing ovation from the Knicks. Isn't that something? And Spike Lee, and he gets past Charlton Curry and Denzel Washington, and He Got Game Part 2. I'm sorry, that'd be Steph Curry. And He Got Game Part 2. It's just a thought. Bigger things have happened. Is all fair and level work. But anyway, that's my thought, and I'm sticking with it. We're going to take what's called the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. Of course, the former California Governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 19 podcast applications all over the universe. What to do, appreciate that. Are you ready for the football? Of course you are. It's Thursday night party. And thank goodness that the NFL has expanded their schedule, because who would really be into this game if it were not for the 17-game now regular season schedule of Thursday night football? The Pittsburgh Steelers are 6-5-1 at the Minnesota Vikings 5-7. Game already kicked off 8:20 p.m. East Coast time on Fox Sports, the NFL Network. Also Amazon, streaming on Amazon at US Bank Stadium. And when you think about it, that building can be one of the loudest places to play. And when you follow an embarrassing 41-10 loss in Week 12, and Mike Tomlin's fiery declaration that it was looking in the mirror for this team, the Steelers delivered an inspiring division win against the AFC North leading Baltimore Ravens. The outcome couldn't have been more impactful. A 6-5-1 Steelers team that's right now in the thick of the AFC wildcard race. Isn't that something for a team that has an aging quarterback that everyone said maybe should have stopped playing last year? But they have an AFC wildcard chase. It's very competitive in that division, whether it's going to be Baltimore or Pittsburgh or Cincinnati. I'm still leaning to the Baltimore Ravens to come out of that division. But you got to like what Tomlin's done with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And for them to get that win last week over Baltimore, and then the Vikings to lose the game that they lost to the Detroit Lions. Vikings at 5-7 now. When you think about it, Kirk Cousins, at his best, has a career leaning toward a playoff elimination. I know they brought him in a couple of years ago, $84 million guaranteed. But the Vikings are in danger of losing out when you think about it. And maybe one of his best seasons as a starter, touchdown to interception ratio, which is one of the top in the NFL right now. When you look at 25 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions, he's put on a clinic in the area of football, and he's been protecting the ball, hasn't been throwing it away, even though sometimes he lines up under the guard instead of the center. But just 2 fumbles lost in his 3 interceptions. Despite ranking 5th in the NFL in pass attempts, only 446, his passer rating is 106.3. That's amazing. And that's, I think, his career best is 107.4. He has a career high of 35 touchdown passes, and that was, I think that could be eclipsed this year. I mean, he's at 25 now, and he has a chance to, if he can throw for 3 more touchdowns a game coming up, they only have, I think, 5 games left, including tonight. Then he'll most likely have the most touchdown passes. He'll go over 40 touchdowns this year. Maybe that's too much for Kirk Cousins. Maybe he'll go to 36 touchdown passes just because the way things go. In Pittsburgh, their rushing attack is ready. They got Franco Harris back. Charlton, that's Najee Harris. Okay, they got Najee Harris. But they've been somewhat slowed at times. But they've been showing a little bit more groove in their get-up lately. They had a clutch drive last week, and everything's now set for the Vikings defense. The run defense is not the best. It ranks 29th in the league at 132 yards per game. The Vikings defensive front, they're hurting right now. Several linebackers, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, and Blake Lynch, they're either limited or unavailable in a shortened practice week. So it might do wonders. The quarterback, Big Ben Roethlisberger, if you want to know how to win, Bill Belichick showed us last night with Mac Jones, not last night, but on Monday night with Mac Jones. He threw the ball 3 times. Running games can win football games. If you're effective, Pittsburgh should. I mean, they're running the ball better now. You don't have to have Big Ben throw 30 and 40-yard passes. Just 5-yard outs, maybe 10 yards out. But the more he has to stand in the pocket, the more likely he's going to be sacked. But give the ball to Antioch, California's finest, Najee Harris. He's a big game running back. He has just had 2 100-yard days all season. If Minnesota's defense, if they're going to get tested early, I mean, Belichick showed teams how to win. You don't have to throw the ball 40 times a game, or even 30, even 20. Just keep running the ball and trust your defense. Justin Jefferson, right now, he has a good season so far. Cousins' connection with the star receiver, been unstoppable right now, but they weren't good enough to beat the Detroit Lions. I mean, they've been unstoppable. Think about Rodgers to Adams, Devontae Adams, or Stafford to Cooper Kupp for the Rams and all for the Packers. But when you think about it, they're doing a good job. Justin Jefferson from Kirk Cousins. And then with running back Dalvin Cook questionable, even if he plays, he's not going to be healthy. Still has that chest injury, or they called it a shoulder injury. But Jefferson is a weapon for the Vikings, and they must flow. He's averaging 100 yards per game on the year. Could feast against the Steelers secondary. They have struggled a little bit at cornerback. But I think for the Steelers, if you run the ball and control the time of possession, they have a chance to go into Minnesota and beat a team that the Detroit Lions beat, even though the Lions typed the Steelers. So how do you give the Steelers the go-ahead when it comes to this game? It just feels like they have the potential to go in the dome and win, because Minnesota's reeling right now, especially their D-line, their inability to stop the rush, which should help Pittsburgh. They don't want to throw a lot with Big Ben. Now the Steelers need to get a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins. That pass rush have to get out of him. T.J. Watt in particular faces quite a challenge here. Minnesota's pass protection allows sacks on just 4% of pass attempts. That's the second best rate in the NFL. Tell that to the Detroit Lions. Detroit was just more physical. And then the Buccaneers pass protection of Tom Brady. Watt leads the NFL with 16 sacks after having 3.5 last week. He'll probably get 2 tonight in Minnesota. And when you think about it, he rushes the offenses of the right edge. They're going to match up against the Vikings right tackle of Brian O'Neill. And I think they're going to have a kind of a stalemate, but I'm going to give Watt at least a sack tonight, maybe 2 by that Steelers front. All's fair and level war. I love what I'm seeing in this game tonight. I know a lot of people love NFL football, and it should be a good game. I'm going to give the Steelers a slight edge just because they had that win over Baltimore, which I think has a better offense than the Minnesota Vikings. It's all fair and level war. People have their own thoughts about it. But I do want to run to a story. No matter what happens in Minnesota, I wish teams nothing but the best. You know, it's going to be a loud house at the ballpark, at the stadium tonight in Minneapolis. I wish both teams nothing but the best. But how about the Cowboys? It's funny when Coach McCarthy comes out and does a Jimmy Johnson imitation, and he's saying out of the comfort of their own facilities, the first day back in the office after being away for 10 days because he had tested positive for COVID-19, Dallas Cowboys head football coach Mike McCarthy, he expressed a lot of confidence, them their fighting words down in Texas, that the team heading into Sunday's game against the Washington football team. He said, not only are we going to go there and beat them, we're going to whip their blippity blip blip. He said they're going to whip some blippity blip blip, if whatever that makes sense to you. I know that's gibberish for some people down in Texas, but he said they're going to win the game. And he says, I'm that confident. And last I checked, he wasn't going to suit up in a uniform. Get your match started there, right back on Mike McCarthy. I don't think he's going to line up. They call that cashing a, is it cashing a check your body can't write or something like that? Write the check your body can't cash. But it was, I think he was trying to channel Jimmy Johnson when he had that bold statement on a local station and ended up on television. It was in the NFC Championship game against the 49ers back in 1993. And out here in San Francisco, it made the news quite a bit. And, of course, Hall of Fame coach, he said, we're going to win the ball game, and you can put that in the 3-inch headlines. We're going to go down there, we're going to pound them, we're going to pound them, we're going to pound them, we're going to win the game. And I think it was Coach Seifert for the 49ers at the time. He said, well, he sure has some big old, blah, 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 blah. Okay. He has some big old blubbity blah, blah. Big cowboy boots is what he said. But they came out and won. They won 38-21, I think. They jumped out to a 21-0 lead. And people said, oh, you don't want to have locker room material for the 49ers. Jimmy Johnson said locker room material is we're doing it for ourselves. We're not trying to show any lack of respect for our opponent. But all he would always do, I'm greatest. I'm pretty. I can't possibly be beat. He wasn't trying to give locker room or bulletin board material to his opponent. He was just showing confidence in himself. But McCarthy, unlike Ali, he wasn't on the field or in the ring. And just like Jimmy Johnson, he wasn't on the field either, but he had that same braggadocio when he was at University of Miami and they won games. And he brought that to the Dallas Cowboys, and they were 1-15 in his first year. So they built a good team with Emmett and also Aikman and Irvin to go down there and win offensively, Novacek as well. And then they had a great defense. We know that they knew how to win games back then. But when you think about it, McCarthy said he didn't back down. I mean, what am I supposed to say? He said, yeah, I expect to win every game I've ever competed in. That's just talk. And then Dallas at one time was on a skid, losing games they should have won. And they even lost that game to the Raiders because they were given too many penalties at home. I think 14 against them. Now they're on the road to play a Washington football team that just beat the Raiders in Las Vegas. So that's what sports is all about. It's about what the NFL is all about. You got to understand how hard it is. They're working hard, and they're going to try to win the game. He's not going to tell his team, well, we hope that we don't lose, and we're just going to go and do our best and hope that things turn out for the best. So people have their own thoughts about it, whether he's talking too big or he's not talking big enough, but the players will decide if they win the game. Obviously, some players like it, other players don't. I think one of the greatest players or one of the greatest coaches I've ever heard when it came to selling games is Bill Belichick. We're playing a good team. They're a very good team. They have a great offense, great defense, and we're just going to try to go do our job. And they win. It works for him. But Bill Belichick, he's a different breed of cat. He doesn't try to put a lot of impression on himself going into a game. He focuses on what they can control. But he never overtalks a game, even when they missed the playoffs last year. And a lot of people can say, oh, my God, it was because Tom Brady's not on the team. That's why they missed the playoffs. No, they missed the playoffs just because they didn't have everything they needed. A lot of players held out last year. And when you think about that, that's what Bill Belichick is. He's someone that takes a cool, calm approach going into a game. McCarthy's not Bill Belichick. But also another great coach that I heard talk with a lot of very calmness about whether they're going to win a game or not. It was great Lou Holtz when he took Notre Dame undefeated and they won their last national championship. I remember Lou Holtz, no matter who they were playing, he was always saying this team is very well coached. They're a good team. We have a lot to look forward to. We're just going to try to play our game, but this is a team that's very well disciplined. They don't make a lot of mistakes, and they're going up against a team that's not even 500. He always had that same mentality, and he didn't want to give them any type of bulletin board material. So McCarthy, if he write a check that the team can't cash, we will find out. They will find out soon enough when they go up to Washington and play the Washington football team is all fair and left for. Are you ready for some football? An FCS party! The FCS football championship. There's a lot of games that are set, and my goodness, I really feel that this division has gotten it right. I know in the Power 5 we're talking about a 4-team playoff, but the FCS is getting it right. They allowed 24 teams in to their playoff bracket. Number 3 going in to the weekend, we have number James Madison. They host number 6 Montana, and on Friday, and that's December 10th. The kickoff at 7 p.m. East Coast time is going to be televised on ESPN2. After earning first-round byes, both teams rolled to big victories in their first games of the tournament last weekend. James Madison beat Southeastern Louisiana 59-20, and Montana, they handled Eastern Washington in a shootout. It was 57-41. Probably safe to say there'll be a lot of points combined between these two great programs coming up on Friday night. And now you have other games that are on the slate. East Tennessee State University versus number 2 North Dakota State. That's a 12 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. South Dakota State versus number 5 Villanova. That's a 2 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. Number 8 Montana State versus number 1 Sam Houston State, an 8:30 p.m. kickoff on ESPNU. And those teams are out of the Big Sky Conference for Montana State and Montana. They advanced. And the team that won the Big Sky Championship, Sacramento State, they were upset by South Dakota State in Sacramento just last week. But North Dakota State, they defeated Southern Illinois 38-7 in the second round of the 2021 FCS Championship game. Compete as an 8-team advance to the quarterfinal round this weekend. The BCS, the Power 5, they're just talking about 4 teams. In the second round, we're down to 8 in the FCS, Division I AA is what I call it. So the action began Friday with Villanova and Montana defending their home turf with victories. On Saturday, you're going to have ETSU won a game that went down to the wire, pulling off a fourth quarter comeback over Kennesaw State. Number 1 Sam Houston State combined, and they continue to win a thrilling game, escaping with a shootout win over UIW to remain undefeated. So when you think about these games, it was Villanova 21, Holy Cross 16, Montana 57, Eastern Washington 41, ETSU 32, Kennesaw State 31, James Madison 59, Southeastern Louisiana 20, number 1 Sam Houston 49, UIW 42, number 2 North Dakota State 38, Southern Illinois 7. It was number 8 Montana State 26, University of Tennessee Martin 7, and then South Dakota State jumped out to a 24-0 lead over number 4 Sacramento State. And that was a 24-19 win, and the Hornet season came to an end. I had picked them to win the FCS National Championship. So the quarterfinal round of the 2021 FCS Championship continues next weekend. And the matchups below, number 6 Montana, Friday, December 6th, at number 3 James Madison, 7 o'clock p.m. ESPN2. ETSU is at their number 7 ranked they're going to play versus number 2 North Dakota State. That's a 12 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. And then South Dakota State versus number 5 Villanova, 2 p.m. ESPN. Number 8 Montana State versus number 1 Sam Houston. And that's an 8:30 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. Now, South Dakota State, they knocked off number 4 Sacramento State. And a surprise game to me, one of the top-seeded teams in the 2021 FCS playoffs. They were upset Saturday night as South Dakota State knocked off number 4 seed Sacramento State. The Hornets, 2-time defending Big Sky Conference champion, 24-19. And the Jackrabbits, they jumped out to a 24-0 lead. And Sacramento State didn't score until they kicked off a field goal as time expired in the first half. Now, they also were stopped a couple of times in the red zone. They could have had another 24 points, but that's all for naught. And you got to give the visiting team credit. South Dakota State coming in to Northern California and winning the game. Sacramento shut the door. They shut them out in the second half. Sacramento State held South Dakota State scoreless in the second half and scored 19 unanswered points, but could not do enough to come from behind. And when you think about it, there's so much competition at this level that they allow the teams to earn it to get into the conversation of who's going to win a national championship. One of the teams that I really like, also number 8, Montana State, defeated University of Tennessee Martin 26-7 behind a dominant defensive effort. The defense did not allow a touchdown, shutting down UTM's offense that was missing starting cornerback Keon Howard, and University of Tennessee Martin was held to just 66 rushing yards and 112 passing yards. On offense, Montana State quarterback Tommy Mallett is a good one. He filled in great, accounting for 2 touchdowns on the ground, as they have a strong ground game as well. So there's a lot of good football going on. When you look at the teams that are projected, in some people's opinion, to win the whole thing, number 1, Sam Houston. They won a shootout win in their game. It was 49-42 over UIW. The game was a back-and-forth game, and it went down to the wire. Both teams combined for 1,156 total yards of offense. And I love high-scoring games, but defense is going to hopefully win these championships. Overall, there were 10 total lead changes in the highest-scoring game. But you're going to have offense and defense. Defense wins championships. Offense scores the points. There's another great team that's been here like year in and year out, like a rites of passage for North Dakota State, the Bison. They shut down Southern Illinois 38-7. And when you think about what happened in that game, it was a dominant rushing attack led by the Bison, and that led them to victory again, as it does for so many years. North Dakota State scored 5 rushing touchdowns, 389 yards rushing, and that's their bread and butter. They like to run the ball. The more they run the ball, the more they chew clock, and the more they chew clock, the more their defense gets to rest, and that's what they need going in to their next game. There's another game that ETSU pulled off a remarkable comeback win against Kennesaw State. They trailed by 14 points with 5 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, and they were able to drive a 13-play, 78-yard drive to score with 1:28 to cut the deficit to 7 points. Just one timeout, and the Buccaneers kicked off an onside kick. They recovered it, and that gave them one last hope. They drove 48 yards before quarterback Tyler Riddell found a winning touchdown with Jay Holmes on a 4-yard score, an extra point to tie the game, and they went for it, and they ended up getting the 2-point conversion. It's amazing how teams went for 2 last week. Even in the Pittsburgh and Baltimore game, there was a 2-point attempt that was made. And so when you make it, obviously you're great. If you don't make it, then people say, why in the world were they going for 2? They could have had to just kick the field goal and try to tie the game and go to overtime. But that's part of what happens in football. You love it. Also, you have number 3, James Madison. They routed Southeastern Louisiana thanks to a great performance on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Quarterback Cole Johnson led the Dukes with 365 yards of total offense and 6 total touchdowns. Johnson scored 5 of his touchdowns in the first half as James Madison jumped out to a 38-13 lead after 2 quarters, and Johnson's top target was wide receiver Antoine Wells Jr. He caught 6 passes, 123 yards. On defense, they held reigning Walter Payton Award winner Cole Kelly in check, forcing 3 interceptions while recovering 2 fumbles. And that's a team, obviously, that knows how to play good football. They're not new to these type of games. Another thing you got to look at, too, what I love about the FCS, they let you earn it on the field. And I love that because everybody wants to figure out how to be crowned a champion. I think the FCS has figured it out a long time ago. You got to let teams play. The more you let teams play, the better chance you have of finding out who the better teams are. Even when I look at Montana versus Eastern Washington, think about that. Number 6 Montana defeated their rival Eastern Washington, both Big Sky teams. It was 50-41 in the second round of the FCS playoffs. The Grizzlies, they trailed the Eagles 21-20 entering the second half and used an explosive third quarter to pull away. Montana scored 24. When you think about that, 24 third quarter points, and the Grizzlies rushed for 209 yards to get that win. Montana played great defense all evening. They have one of the greatest stadiums in the FCS. Holds about 25,000, close to the field, no track around the stadium, and you're right up on the action. And I really love the scene that they have football up in Montana. What a great scene for Montana University. But I tell you, this is a football team. They played Eastern Washington. They know each other. They scored a lot of points in that game. But congratulations for them advancing. Number 5, Villanova, they held off Holy Cross, defeated them 21-16 to advance to the quarterfinals of the 2021 FCS Championships. When you think about this team, they jumped out to a 14-0 lead, 2 touchdowns from running back Justin Covington. Villanova would lead 21-17 to 10 entering the fourth quarter before Holy Cross scored a touchdown and cut the deficit with about 6 minutes left to go in that game. So there's a lot of good football that's been played. I love watching football, especially at the NFL level. Of course, college football, we have different divisions. But for people that feel that you can't find competitive equity by expanding the bowl games to 12, the FCS started with 24. Keep that in mind whenever we feel that is too much football. You want teams to have a chance to win. And you got a chance to do it on the field as opposed to someone saying that you don't deserve to be in. And just to show that the FCS and the BCS, the Bowl Championship Series, remember teams that have been ranked number 2 this year that are not in the football playoff. At a time, Iowa was ranked number 2 in the country. They're not in the playoffs. Oregon was ranked number 2 in the country at a time, or as high as number 3. They're not in the playoffs. Ohio State was ranked number 2 in the country. They're not in the playoffs. Isn't that something? There's a lot of times when their ranking doesn't mean that you're the better team. You just got to have the chance to play and earn your spot in the playoffs. And that's what I love about the FCS. They figured out how to do that. And so as they figure out how to do more of that, I think college football benefits from that on so many levels. The more you let players decide on the field who's going to win, then the better chance you have of deciding who's going to take that team and get that championship trophy put up on the mantle. It's all fair in level where I also want to finish out in today's program. There's a lot of good football that I've seen all over this country. And oftentimes we pass up, as mainstream media will pass up on the HBCUs. But there's a lot of great athletes that come out of the HBCUs as well. So I want to finish out our show today talking about some of the HBCU happenings for 2021. There's a Celebration Bowl matchup that's set. And it's finally here, the SWAC champion Jackson State versus the MEAC champion South Carolina State. And both will win. The Tigers and the Bulldogs looking to finish in the top of the HBCU football. And some of the top players by position in the HBCU, almost a close but talented players shrine for teams throughout the FCS season. When you think about it, a quarterback, Akil Glass out of Alabama A&M, running back Bishop Bonnet out of Florida A&M, linebacker Isaiah Land out of Florida A&M, and safety Marquise Bell out of Florida A&M. And then you have cornerback DeCombie Durant out of South Carolina State. There are a lot of good football players that play in the HBCU. There's also a bowl called the HBCU Legacy Bowl with South Carolina State's Vereen Earns selection. South Carolina State wide receiver Will Vereen, he will be selected at the HBCU Legacy Bowl. And Vereen is the 20th FCS participant in the 6th FCS wide receiver selected in the postseason All-Star game that features the best players from the HBCUs around the country. Hope they put this on television. There's a list of selections below, quite a few of them. I'm just going to name a couple of them. Quarterback Akil Glass that I talked about from Alabama A&M. Quarterback Felix Harper out of Alcorn State. The great Steve McNair went to Alcorn State. Wide receiver Xavier Smith out of Florida A&M. Running back Jermaine Martin out of North Carolina A&T. Wide receiver Ryan McDaniel, North Carolina Central. Running back Isaiah Trotton out of North Carolina Central as well. What a good offensive juggernaut they have there. Defensive back Jalen Thigpen, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Quarterback Jawan Carter, Norfolk State. Offensive line Cam Durley, Tennessee State. Defensive back Jawan Taylor, Alcorn State. Offensive lineman, the Big Nasties, Jamal Savage, Bethune-Cookman. Another great player. Tight end, Taryn Mallard, Bethune-Cookman. Defensive back, Aaron Walker, out of Howard. Offensive lineman, DeJourn Simpson, North Carolina A&T. Offensive lineman, Keenan Forbes, Florida A&M. Defensive end, Chris Myers, out of Norfolk State. Offensive lineman, Danny Garza, Prairie View A&M. Wide receiver, Josh Lanier, is Jackson State's finest. Wide receiver, Josh Wilkes, Arkansas Pine Bluff, as well as wide receivers, Trey Gross, out of Delaware State, and wide receiver, Wolverine, out of South Carolina State. Them good boys, I want to give them all some praise. They deserve some praise coming out of the HBCU, getting their name in the press on Big C Sports Podcast. The HBCU Legacy Bowl is going to be held February 19th, 2022 at Yulman Stadium in beautiful New Orleans, Louisiana. A lot of good players are in those games. I want to also just talk about some more players that gain accolades out of the HBCUs, and I love paying attention and paying homage to the HBCU and some of the many great players that play football out of that conference. HBCU Legacy Bowl. NFL player Taryn Armstead partners with postseason All-Star game. Now that's NFL player Taryn Armstead. It's the latest NFL player to partner with the HBCU Legacy Bowl. Armstead currently, he's an offensive tackle for the New Orleans Saints. When you think about how many great players have come out of the HBCUs and the MEAC, there's so many that line the rosters of NFL football. But I know we don't see a lot of them on television, especially on Sundays, or actually on Saturdays, because the TV really doesn't pay much attention to them. I would have thought that the HBCUs could have struck a better TV contract so that we could see more players play. That's what I would have thought would have been the case, but it hasn't happened so far. But hopefully they can get some of that attention going forward. Maybe it will start in 2022. I mean, there's a lot of great things that go on with the players that come out of the HBCU, and I know a lot of them have a lot of pride and history in the universities. There's a Florida A&M football Isaiah Land invited to the 2021 Buck Buchanan Award announcement. He's a linebacker out of Florida A&M. Isaiah Land learned of an invitation to the announcement in the 2021 Buck Buchanan Award for the FCS Defensive Player of the Year, and he finishes the regular season leading the FCS in tackles for loss. That's something that needs to be paid attention to. Also, in the MEAC Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year, Carter and Durant take home hardware. Norfolk State quarterback Juwan Carter and South Carolina State quarterback DeCrombie Durant are the 2021 MEAC Offensive and Defensive Players of the Year, respectively. The awards were announced at the 63rd Annual National Football Foundation and College Football Hall of Fame press conference. There's so many great players that just need to be acknowledged. New HBCU football head coaches, Southern and Alabama State, new hires. Second HBCU head coach. When you think about that, a coaching vacancy was filled when Southern hired head coach Eric Dooley, and he leaves Prairie View A&M after winning the 2021 SWAC West Crown, and Dooley previously served as an assistant coach at Southern from 1997 to 2010. They're not getting the 10-year, $100 million deals or 8-year, $95 million deals, but they are getting acknowledgement on Big C Sports. Alabama State hired Eddie Robinson Jr. as his new head coach. Robinson is not related to HBCU coaching legend Eddie Robinson, but he is Alabama State alumnus and earning the SWAC Defensive Player of the Year during his time with the Hornets. Just so many great programs. The MEAC and the SWAC Championship history in 2021 season. Jackson State and South Carolina State are the 2021 SWAC and MEAC football champions, respectively, and they have a history that dates back many, many years as far as teams winning games. But I love just honoring that and paying attention to what happens with the HBCU and the SWAC. It's all fair and level, where I hope that most of those games that we talk about will be shown more on television and not just something that's talked about on Big C Sports Podcast. So I want to say to all of the great teams that got their names in the press, I want to give them all some praise. Give them all praise. The SWAC and the HBCU, they deserve it. They have some fine football players that have come out of those fine programs. It's all fair and level, where we have some NFL football tonight with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Minnesota Vikings doing their thing up in Minnesota. Great crowd on hand. Also some NBA basketball. Talked about the great Steph Curry. It would be great if he could break the record by the great Ray Allen, Jesus Shuttleworth, and Madison Square Garden. He's just 10 away from breaking the record, 9 from tying. I would love to see him get maybe 5 3-pointers against Philadelphia, maybe 4 against Indiana, and that would put him at tying the record with Reggie Miller in the house. It just seems like it should happen that way. And then also, if he had a chance to tie against Reggie Miller at Indiana, where he made 3-point shooting famous for that great franchise. But to do it in Madison Square Garden, you can't find a better place for setting a record in all of the NBA, because it doesn't make any sense if he set it in Philadelphia. Probably not going to happen in Philadelphia. It wouldn't make sense if he set the record in Indiana. It's probably not going to happen. He would have to hit 10 between Philadelphia's game on the road and Indiana on the road. But if you just think about the annals of history, when things are done the right way, it was nice. It would be, I mean, if you think about it, 5 against his brother in Philadelphia, go into Indiana, get 4 more that would tie Reggie Miller on Reggie Miller's home court with Reggie Miller in the house, former UCLA great. And then to go into the mecca of basketball at Madison Square Garden with the crowd shouting, la, 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 hey, goodbye. And then Steph Curry for 3 at Madison Square Garden. All he needs is 10. Why not? I mean, things have been better staged in the past. Get him into New York having to shoot 1 or 2 baskets to break the record. I think if it makes sense, and I think I hit the home run. And then have Spike Lee saying he's going to feature Denzel Washington and then Charlton Curry, and he got game 2. I'm sorry, with Steph Curry, and he got game 2. That's all fair. Steph Curry for 3. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown, even known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you soar like a butterfly, you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble, but all you've got to use, how can you lose? Ali would say, I'm pretty. I'm so pretty I can't possibly be beat. With all these Big C burgers in my tummy, it makes me light on my feet. That's why I'm rumbling, always rumbling. I float like a butterfly and sting like a bee because of Big C burgers. My beautiful mother always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you, on every Big C Sports Show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.